Just a little quick update here on Terrence Brooks. He is still in Indy. Again, we know he had that contusion, but they're going to just keep him for observation right now. We're expecting maybe to come home tonight. If not, he'll be back tomorrow. Other than that, from the game, really no significant injuries or anything from anybody.
What is the update on Tyrod Taylor? Is he healthy enough to play?
We're just going to go day to day with him right now and just kind of see on Wednesday where he's at and go from there with it.
So day to day at this point, so it's better than it did last week?
Yeah, it's better than it did last week because as we move along, he's getting better and better in it. But it is better than it was last week.
That situation with the hamstring and the ramp up for that, would it probably be a situation where he's having a week of practice before you then attempt to have him play the game?
Well, that's what we're going to look at and see moving forward right now, even with this week, kind of to see where he's at. And we won't just bring him back and just throw him into the game. He'll have to have some practice time, and we'll treat him that way just like we did the other guys that have been out.
David, you guys are 1-5, obviously, not where you want to be, but do you feel your team is making progress? And if so, where are the areas do you feel
not the progress that we feel like we need to be at this time. We're still inconsistent with things. We're still having our penalties in this past game. We're down, but 2 of those penalties were critical penalties. We got better there, but they're coming at the wrong time. I just think our inconsistency from that standpoint, with when turnovers happen, they do happen, penalties do happen, but we seem to be getting them, especially on the road, at critical times that are hurting us, both sides of the ball, in continuing drives and stopping drives.
What were the 2 penalties you viewed as particularly critical?
Well, obviously the penalty we had a 3rd and 10. We had them on defense, and we end up jumping offside, and that I mean we're 3rd and 10 at that point, you know. And then we had a holding penalty, obviously, earlier when we had a good drive going on offense that brought the ball back. It put us behind the chains again, and we can't have those.
This is like, obviously, other than reinforcing that you can't make those kind of penalties, what do you try to do sort of constructively to get the guys to change their ways and to play better and to not make those mistakes?
Well, the thing about it is it's not happening from one particular position or one particular guy. If that was the case, it would be easy. I'd get them out of the game and put somebody else in the game. But it's happening, and usually we're getting more of those for whatever reason when we're on the road as opposed to when we're at home. I'm not sure why that is, but that is happening, and more so with the turnovers. You know, when we're getting the turnovers, obviously most of Davis's interceptions, if you look at it, has been when we've been on the road. You know, so I don't know why that is. Just like yesterday, for example, I don't think it had nothing to do with the crowd noise or anything like that. It has something to do with just a bad decision that he made that we can't make. And those things are happening more so on the road in the second half in games that we're in. And in this past game, we're 10-3 at halftime. We come back out in the 3rd quarter, we get a stop, and we throw an interception. And then all of a sudden they score. And they score, I'm going back again to the inconsistency. They score because you know, we got a guy out of position from the standpoint of reading his keys, and if he was back where he should have been in that particular situation, that touchdown doesn't happen.
Dave, how does a string of losses complicate trying to get people to correct things? Because it doesn't seem like, you know, wins would be encouraging, but, you know, to have those that not be there, how does that complicate?
Well, wins are encouraging, and it's much easier. But what happens in wins sometimes is things get hid when you win. You know, I mean, we've some of these, even in the Jacksonville game, we made some of these same mistakes in the Jacksonville game. We didn't make them at critical times, and we end up winning the game. And then there's been a continuation of, especially on the road, when we have played these things coming. But what we do in practice is we come in, we focus on that. We put ourselves in situations where these things that are happening, we redo those things again. Go over those things to make them aware of that and how critical it is to be able to do the right things in those particular situations. And we just keep coaching and teaching that. And you just keep on and on and on. It's a process. And right now that process is not going as quickly and as consistently as we want. And we got to get that better. And we're just going to keep working on that. We're going to keep working on that in practice every day.
How do you address this issue with the road? You got another road game coming up, and it's against a really good team. How do you address that particular issue that you mentioned about whatever reason is a lack of focus or?
You know, Jerome, the thing about that is that obviously we're more comfortable playing here. We've played better here. We've had chances to win every game we've played if we've played at home. When we're going on the road, I mean, our mindset has got to be that the no crowd in any game that we've played. We went to Cleveland, no problem. We went to Buffalo. There wasn't really an issue with the crowds per se. It was an issue of that with our football team being away in that environment, not being able to keep our focus and concentration the way it needed to be in order to win, especially against good football teams on the road. And again, when you do that, we have to grow to that point to where that we're playing the same way at home when adversity hits. And it's usually on the road when an adversity hit, a bad play or a bad penalty. We have seemed to overcome those better at home than we have on the road. And that's just a focus and concentration thing, and just keeping your mind in the right place and playing it one play at a time, and not allowing the fact that, yeah, you're aware that you won one ball game, but you are aware of the fact that how do you change that? You change that by taking that mindset that we've had of being one play at a time, watch that play out, go to the next play, and then do your job the way it should be done.
Coach, yesterday Brandon Cooks talked about this team being undisciplined. When you hear those kind of things, what do you feel you have to do as a head coach to kind of correct that and get this team into the right spot?
Well, that starts with me, and that starts with just what I just said. We've got to do a better job as coaches in practice of making sure that we're focusing more, that our concentration is at a higher level, and it's not at that level that it needs to be right now. In practice, we haven't seen a whole bunch of those kind of things happening. It has happened, but we're going to emphasize it more as a staff. We're going to make sure they understand it more. We're going to put them in those situations again, and to make sure that they understand how critical it is. And again, you know, to change things, you got to change. And we have to do that moving forward in practice, and making sure that we are addressing that even more so than what we have been addressing it, and just emphasizing it and let the process take care of itself.
Even after watching
position, are you thinking that Lonnie would be a top candidate to play with Terrence's situation, or do you want to throw it open, look at Eric Murray, look at maybe guys in the practice squad? How do you view the safety spot?
No, we just, if obviously Terrence is not going to be able to play this week. I'm not sure how long it will be before he's not able to play, but Lonnie went in and played, and we'll basically start the game this coming week, obviously, with those guys back there at safety, with Eric being back there also, and we basically have been playing those guys combinationally just like we do our defensive line, and we'll end up doing the same thing now moving forward.
after reviewing the game, did you anything else reveal about some of the breakdowns in the secondary?
Yes, just reading our keys. Just reading our keys. We've been inconsistent in doing that. And we went into the game, and I'll just say this right here. When we went into the game, the night before the game, I gave them three things that I thought was important in this game. The first one was win the turnover battle. We didn't do that. The second one was prevent the big play. And how do we prevent the big play? By making them go the distance. But to make them go the distance, you have to do the right thing in critical situations. I go back again. We had an offsides on a 3rd and 10 that put them in a situation to end up getting a field goal. We had a situation where it was a 3rd down and they ended up getting a touchdown with a situation where our guy didn't read the key right. And had we done those things, that touchdowns doesn't happen. 2 of those touchdowns do not happen if we had just done the right thing in reading our keys. And we got to keep harping on that and keep getting to the point to where we're consistent at doing that, because that's the only way we're going to change the result.
You mentioned before, kind of in just your comments, that your team can't afford to have penalties, special teams errors, has a pretty thin margin for error. Do you feel like your roster understands that? You think your players understand kind of the thin margin for error that this team has?
Not to this point. We haven't understood that. And again, that's my job, to make that point to them and understand that to change the results of what's happening in these ball games, that has to happen. And we're going to get it in practice. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to emphasize in our meetings, keep them over and over again. And that's the only way we end up getting it done. We got to be able to get it changed. And obviously, if it's not getting changed by the guys that are doing the same things again and again, then we'll put somebody else in there to do that.
You've coached in this league for a long time. Have you seen a team that you've coached go from making those undisciplined mistakes early in the season to correcting it later in the season?
And Sarah, yes, I have. And that's why I'm encouraged moving forward with an optimistic about what can happen for us later on in changing these results. And, you know, I've seen it happen. I've also seen this football team we just played last year was 0-5 at one time and end up turning things around. But to turn things around, you have to change the way you're doing things and do things the right way, just like those things that I mentioned. You got to be able to play situational football and not have critical errors. And as a coaching staff, we've got to make sure that we're doing the things in practice to make sure those things don't happen. And if they don't happen, then we're going to be in the ball game and have a chance to be able to win a game, which when we've done those things, we've been there.
Coach, you mentioned before when you made the move with Charles Omenihu was to give somebody else a chance to play. Any chance you would do that with Scotty Phillips in the running back position?
We'll see. That's a possibility. There's always a possibility. When we sit and we look at it, I do feel like that the guys that have been playing for us at running back have been consistent. Up until this game here, we hadn't laid the ball on the ground at all at the running back position, and we had a couple this past game. But obviously, Scotty's there waiting, and if we get in a situation where we feel like we need to make a move, we feel confident in making that move if it gets to that point.
What about the health with the offensive line? You had 3 starters out. Is this kind of the makeup of the line?
Well, it's the makeup. It's the makeup as it is right now. I mean, Ram, we got to go with what we got, and that's what we got, and we're going to go with them. And I thought yesterday that those guys played hard. I thought they did exactly what we asked them to do. Again, the critical errors that we've been making obviously affects not only them, but it affects the entire football team. And usually, I've always said this before, we are going to be identified with our upfront offense and our upfront on defense, and basically that's how we're going to be successful.
Thanks, Coach.
Got it? Mm-hmm.